Greetings and a very warm welcome to all. I'm Dr. Rachel Ann Behling, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you back to Life's Beautiful Synergies. This podcast is more than just a series of conversations. It's a journey we embark on together, a journey towards balance, empowerment, and transformation. Today, we continue our group interview with our inspiring new PhD graduates. As we delve into their personal and professional challenges and the resiliency they've shown, let's discover together the insights and stories that marked their recent achievements and dedication during their PhD journey.
Balancing personal life with intense research demands is challenging. What strategies did you employ to maintain this balance?
Oh no, it ain't that deep, man. What kept me going is our very close proximity to the population that I researched. I am a Black male higher education faculty member, and that's just always been something I'm very interested in. Even when I was a media studies major in undergrad, I wrote about the representation of Black folks in the media, even by Black writing rooms, because that was big in 2010, 2011. We seen an influx of shows, but the writing rooms still didn't look like the people they were writing about. So that's what always kept me going. I think the hardest part that I had to keep going wasn't in the research and the writing. It was after the interviews and looking at the data and reading the stories of the brothers that I was interviewing and going, dang, we ain't crazy, y'all. Like, literally, we're all going through the same things at PWIs, predominantly white institutions, at historically Black colleges and universities. Like, it really didn't matter. The venue is that we were all going through very, very similar stories, and that heaviness and that weight is what I had to end up pushing through. But the research and the writing, that was the fun part. It's what do you do when the thing that you thought was the thing is the thing, and it's not sexy. It's actually sad. And I'm still working through that. So if anybody got any coping strategies for that, I definitely could use them.
But how did you keep that balance between dad, son, husband, taking care of your wife, your family, but still the pace and the dedication that you showed towards your program and your degree, at least from the time that I started to meet you, it seemed like you must have had some kind of process to make sure that all of those things, either they didn't collide or they didn't collide in a way that made you stop. So what were some of the things that helped you that you would give advice to other students?
Well, first off, thank you. I'm glad that it looked organized. I honestly, man, the why. So, and I don't mean why in the way that we've used it before of like, push through things that are uncomfortable. Like, no, why are you doing this? Has always stayed front and center in my head. So I made my grandmother a promise before she passed away. My birthday is February the 4th. She passed away February the 9th, 2009. And my 13th birthday, we had a conversation where I was telling her, I'm happy. I'm about to, I'm in high school. Can't wait to graduate high school. I'm going to go to college and do X, Y, Z. And she was like, and then what? And I was like, I don't know. She was like, well, get another one. Like, bet I should go get my master's. She was like, and then what? I'm like, I don't know. And she was like, go get another one. And I'm here. I'm here getting that other one. And, with all the responsibilities, work, I lost my job in the middle of getting this back in July, got another one, had a baby, right? Got married in the middle of my program. And none of that stuff is a distraction. And you remember why, right? Why am I doing this, right? There's a reason that I'm stressed. There's a reason that I'm not sleeping. There's a reason why I'm burning the candle at both ends. And for those that are like, oh man, this isn't the most uplifting advice, there's a light at the end of the tunnel that this is temporary. So all of the late nights I had to put in for Dr. Behling to get, chapter 4 finally after promising her it a month before she finally got it, all of that stuff is you're fine with it because of the why, right? So to answer Dr. Behling's question with a more straightforward answer of, how did I keep the balance? I kept the why front and foremost. My grandmother asked me what I wanted to do back in 2009. I did the thing, right? I owed it to her. So that's how I kept it balanced because my why was always the North Star.
It was hard to balance personal life and the dissertation. I think wanting to be present was, the biggest hurdle for me. Teen mom, football mom, soccer life, football life, husband, always feeling guilty of not being present. So what helped me balance it was, again, our conversations, knowing that I wasn't alone, knowing that I knew that there were other people experiencing the same thing, But in those moments where I felt alone, I would use my faith, of course, to help me get through, and just calling on people that I know that could help me get through it. Some real major cheerleaders. But most folks just didn't understand the process at all. So I had to talk to people who knew the process and the journey. So that's what kind of got me through those moments out of balance.
And I think that's the piece that is so different about going through a PhD program compared to going through any other degree, master's, associates, and so forth, is that at some point, because of the complexity of the research and because of the complexity of the qualitative or quantitative analytics that go into it and the depth of the lit review that you have to pull together, at some point, your normal tribe that would support you and mentor you and coach you and help you through, they get lost in the scholarliness. They get lost in the scientific approach, and they stop being able to follow what you're specifically going through. And it's not fair to keep going back to those same resources with that burden because they don't know how to help you navigate through. And I think this is a unique piece that is on the shoulders of students that are going through and trying to become doctors, is that they have to find that tribe that understands the complexity and the scientific nature of what they're fighting through in order to have good advice and get good mentorship. And I think that's what each of these graduates have been able to do, is they've been able to find a mentor that could help them with the personal stuff, the life struggles, the anxiety, and so forth. But they also did a brilliant job of finding fellow scholars that understood that piece and that could talk them through it, walk them through it, and support them through it. When husbands, wives, kids, they stop asking, when are you going to be done? Or what's a research question? Or I don't understand your theoretical approach. And I think that was a significant part of that journey, is finding that particular brand of mentorship to help you through that journey.
Absolutely.
For me, I don't know that I balanced. I think I juggled. And I was juggling a full-time job. I was juggling a full-time student. I was juggling a full-time wife. I was juggling a full-time grandma. And I was juggling being an associate pastor. So I had all of those things on my plate. So balancing, I did not do. Juggling, I did do. And so when it was time for me to work, I was present in my job. I gave it my all in those moments. As soon as 4 o'clock, then I shifted and I had the next juggle. And when I was home, I was 100% present with my husband. And I was there with him. When I shifted to my grandchildren, it was 100% with them. So I had to be present in the moment and juggle all of those. So with school, where school came in, being a full-time student, that came in from when everybody else was at home asleep. So my study time came in from 11 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's when I had to focus on my studies, because that was the time where all of my background noise stopped. And I could be my best, and I could do and be in the moment and in the present during those times. So it wasn't a balancing act. It was juggling for me.
I hear the word balance, and I think soft, pretty pastels, candlelight, soft music, very pretty. I've never known balance. I am the child of revolution and war. I have had to learn to speak another language to live in another country. I have been told twice, I will not leave the hospital, I am dying. I don't think I've really known balance. I have known riches of private jets, and I have known poverty of going to bed hungry for a week because I had no money to eat. But I'm also very driven. I don't think I've ever sought balance. I am not seeking it now. I'm driven. What drives me is the idea of one day pulling Excalibur out of the stone. The notion of ethics, of honor, of nobility, and through education, betterment of human society. If I ever find out what balance is, I promise I will let you know.
I had a little bit of a unique experience in that my husband went to obtain his doctorate before I did. And I remember that being the loneliest time that I've ever had. And so I'd always kept that in the back of my mind. And the way that I tried to balance, and I can agree, it's more like juggling, because you have work and you have kids, and you're trying to be there for your kids, and you're trying to be there for your spouse, and you're trying to be the best you in everything. And so what helped me is I would always check in with my family, and I would check in with my kids, and I would ask, you have your tennis tournaments that are coming in, but we also have band, and we also have FFA, and we have 4-H. Which one would you like for me to go to? And they would let me know. And if it was more than one, then I would make sure that I carved out that time. One thing that my chair did is she always stressed, you have to make your schedule, and you have to make sure that your study time, that you're completely devoted to that study time. So the time that I spent with my family, I was completely devoted to my family. But I think as a learner, it's really important that you remember that you're not the only one going through this journey, and that there's others that are going through the journey with you. And my little ones would run in place to show me how I could run in place and jog and study all at the same time while he was reading his Clifford book. And just remembering that you do have to you have to be very precise in the time that you're going to spend with family, the time that you're going to spend with school, but to have those check-ins. And that was really key. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was balanced. There were times when and you're going to go through this when you're on the living room floor and you're crying because you don't think you can do this. And it's going to take those that you check in that are able to say, hey, you can do this. And let me pick up my Clifford book so I can show you how you can run and you can read at the same time. And so there you are on the treadmill with your papers as you're on the treadmill doing what your kid told you that you needed to do so that you could study. But for me, it was just doing the check-ins to make sure that I tried to balance.
I think one other piece is that the P word, perfection. When you're going through a challenging life goal, like becoming a doctor, you don't have the luxury of trying to be perfect. And it is a luxury. You have to find, I don't want to say the word balance, but it becomes that juggling. It becomes that synergy between everything that you're trying to maintain and accomplish, but not trying to be perfect in any of it. It's stepping back from the whole journey and seeing where do you need to find that synergy. And each one of you mentioned being present in the moment, because you have only precious moments here on earth. I think Sable has a perfect example. Her father passed away during this journey. Several of us have loved ones that pass away during this journey. You can't balance that. You can't fix that. As Dr. Hipps mentioned, you have to fight through it. You have to find that inner grit, that why. And it is being able to step back and being in synergy with the journey, understanding what matters, who I'm in the room with in this moment, making sure that those moments matter, because you don't have the luxury of hours and days and weeks. You have something to do right afterwards in order to keep going in the process. So I think my takeaway from what you've all shared here today is that synergy of bringing your authentic self and showing up how you need to and how your loved ones needed you to, so that you bring them along on this journey. And that is the magic of where you all are today. So looking back, is there anything you would have done differently to enhance your well-being through this doctoral journey?
I think I would have really outsourced a lot of resources, or just thought more about other resources that I could utilize while participating or while being involved in the journey. The ideal of being perfect and wanting to do all the things, I wish I would have let some of that go and really outsourced and said somebody else can do it, and really exercise my no. I did not exercise my no enough. I really overwhelmed myself, and there was lots of self-sabotage in the midst of that. So I think I would definitely utilize people, and when they say, can you help me? If they asked for help, or if they asked if they could help me, I should have said yes. But instead I said no. And I would always do everything because I felt like I had to do it all. So I'll take myself out of the equation and allow other people to do things for me and really benefit from their resources and skills and talents and let them be their best self. But instead, I just put myself in everything. So looking back, I think I would just utilize all the human resources around me.
For me, looking back on what I would have done differently for my well-being, my study was around emotional intelligence and social emotional learning, which is your well-being. And what I would have done differently is my self-talk and the should have, could have, and would haves, and the regret piece that I was placing on myself when I didn't meet a deliverable, or when I got in my prayer closet and I was saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not able to do that. So looking back, that would have been, if I could go back and tell my younger self 6 years ago, stop doing the should have, could haves, and would haves. Look forward. Stop looking in that rearview mirror and going back to that imposter syndrome. I don't have imposter syndrome. I am a doctor because I was able to push through that. But really, it was that negative self-talk and learning how at an earlier phase in this journey, learning to have positive talk, self-talk instead of the negative self-talk.
In all honesty, while absolutely aware of my mistakes, I cherish them. I have become a more evolved human being because of them, for having realized them. But the PhD journey has not made me a more knowledgeable scholar. It has made me a more evolved human being. And at the center of that lies the notion that sitting here, and a few of you would know, sitting here right now, I am more evolved than I was 3 hours ago for having addressed another disappointment. My journey has been full of disappointments, and as a result of each of them, I have let go of a little power and I have gained a little strength. And that is the Sable that is moving forward. That is the Sable that will pull the Excalibur out of the stone.
To help my well-being, I think one of the things that I needed to stop doing, that I've learned to stop doing, is comparing myself to everyone else in the room. As people are talking about their deliverables and then questioning myself on, well, why isn't your chapter 4 finished if so-and-so started on their chapter 4 and it took them a shorter amount of time, or why is this so difficult for you to understand? I think to help with my well-being, that's helped me a lot, is to quit comparing myself to everyone else, because everyone else is on their own journey and I'm on mine, and I need to focus on what I needed to do, because I was so busy focusing on what everybody else was doing that I wasn't doing what I needed to do. Because I do agree it's a lot of the negative self-talk that we do. I think as students that are working towards their doctorate, we're very competitive by nature. And so even though we try not to compete in the cohort, we do. And it's like everybody wants the chair to look at them and say, oh, good job, share your stuff. Well, I'm going to share mine because, it's that great. But it's just not comparing yourself to others and beating yourself over, what you may have missed the mark on.
I think that's a key part, is when someone decides to go for their PhD, normally they're at the peak of their professional careers. They're at the highest level that they've performed in their professional journeys. And to start over as a doctoral student, learning how to do research for the first time is a significant, humbling experience. And it is a strange beast to have that synergy from having all the self-confidence that you need in order to tackle this and keep going when things get choppy, but at the same time being humble enough to understand that you don't know it all and you need help, you need mentors, you need to read and write and learn. It is a very rare human quality, and it doesn't just happen. What Dr. Sanchez was explaining, that there has to be a certain level of competition with yourself, with where you think you should be, where others think you should be, but being able to be humble enough to step back and go, this part of the journey is tough for me. I'm struggling, right? But being able to fight back from that and get through to the next step where you were the expert and she was struggling, or vice versa. And I think that's the unique part of this doctoral program is nobody is a rock star in every phase of it, and no one is horrible at every phase of it. You just got to fight through the tough, and you got to celebrate the easy. And that's where the beauty of it is, and that's how you end up as a doctor on the other end. As we conclude, what are you most looking forward to in the immediate future as you transition out of academic life?
I'm looking forward to applying for everything that says doctor and not overlooking or bypassing anything. But most of all, just being in the room. I think being in the room is what I'm looking forward to. I think that we all have jobs where people talk about us without us being present, but it just seems like with that degree, they just welcome you with open arms to be more a part of that conversation and to lead in a way that you weren't leading before. So I'm looking forward to being in the space, being in the room.
As this journey comes to an end and the new journey begins, I think what I'm looking forward to the most is all the open doors, and knowing that the open doors are set before me, that I get to choose which door I can walk through, and that the limits are not there because my education was limited. And so that's what I'm looking forward to the most, is just walking out my God-given purpose, and now that I have the ability and the credentials to do so.
I like to build on what GiTonya was mentioning about being in the room, having a voice. I have been experiencing that at work to the degree that, and my job has transformed based on my newly recognized skills, shall we say. I am afraid I'm not transitioning out of academic life. I have promised myself 2 weeks off, and I will be looking for postdoctoral programs. This is what I'm passionate about, and I do hope to conduct and lead many research projects. I do have the ambition of adding to the realm of knowledge, of human knowledge, and I do want to explore concepts of ethics, honor, nobility, and human life and human success, actually.
What I'm looking forward to is working with at-risk youth to make sure that not one is left behind. This is an exciting time with our district in that we received $1 million grant. And so I'm actually going to be able to work with the youth and see if the research that was conducted will make a difference and to continue to move forward. It's just applying what I've learned in order to help others.
Thank you all for joining us today and sharing such insightful and inspiring stories. To our listeners, we hope these discussions have offered you valuable perspectives on navigating the doctoral journey and what lies beyond. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and every lesson learned is a step toward success. I'm Dr. Rachel Behling, thanking you for tuning in and inviting you to join us next time as we continue to explore life's beautiful synergy.